What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about. We're going to look over all three selections made by Andrew Berry in day 2 of the NFL Draft. I'll be giving out grades on those picks. We're going to catch you up on the latest Baker Mayfield trade front and what a trade could look like, and we're going to talk about the draft, because that's what you're going to do when it's the late April and we're talking NFL Draft. So, Browns draft selections. Let's recap quickly before we get to the Baker Mayfield brief segment of the show. I don't want to give him too much airtime because I want to talk about the draft. Cleveland went Martin Emerson, Alex Wright, and David Bell. They moved back from 44 with the Houston Texans, which we'll recap that trade a little later on as well, just to refresh everyone's memory. But how funny must that have been for Andrew Berry to call the Texans and be like, you want to do a trade again? Like, we had so much fun the first time. Can we do it again a second time? I thought that would be pretty fair for everyone. Well, I'll go more in depth on Martin Emerson and Alex Wright and David Bell towards the middle of the show, but I want to kind of hit things off by talking about Baker Mayfield, because the Panthers traded up to get Matt Corral, which probably means they're not looking to go and acquire a quarterback like Baker Mayfield. I don't know who wants Baker. My other trade options are the Seahawks, the Bucks, and just an absolute wild card of a team. I wonder if Andrew Berry is being very stubborn on that $18 million salary, and he does not want to pay much of it, and that's why we haven't seen a trade happen. There was some murmurs that the Browns and the Panthers were close to making a deal, but they couldn't get over the $18 million salary cap hit. And the Browns maybe wanted Carolina to pay more of it than the Panthers wanted to pay. So now we wait. We also didn't see the Seahawks pick a quarterback in day 2. They opted not to go with Malik Willis or Desmond Ridder. So maybe that tells me their next best option is Baker Mayfield. The guy's going to get traded. I think it might be as good as your guess as it is mine as to where he could end up. So that's going to kind of do it for the Baker Mayfield segment, because I want to talk about the draft. You know what I mean? That's what this week's all about, the NFL Draft. So what do you think about this question, though? Will Baker Mayfield be traded in the NFL Draft? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no really quickly down in the comments section before we move on to the draft segment and talk about Martin Emerson, Alex Wright, and David Bell, my grades for those picks. I don't think Baker gets traded in the draft anymore, by the way. That's kind of my quick. I'm going to go N for no, but if you think he does, pop down and give me a Y for yes. Let's first start by talking about Martin Emerson. The scouting report on him, and then we'll show you my grade on him. He's shown flashes of shutdown ability, our NFL draft guru Tom Downey wrote in his report. He's a lengthy dude, like the size out of him, tall, long arms, all those good tangible things you look for in a cornerback. But did we really need a corner? You know, when you've got Denzel Ward, when you got a lot of depth at that position as it already is, I just didn't feel like corner was the number one thing the Browns needed in this NFL draft when their first selection came. You went Greg Newsome in the first round just 2 years ago. Why did you have to go corner with your first pick here? NFL.com's Lance Zierlein wrote about Martin Emerson. Here's what he said. Long finesse cornerback with traits and talent to compete in full field press man coverage. Emerson has patient feet to maintain positioning against the release and uses length and positioning for catch disruptions. That's awesome and everything. All right? I don't think Martin Emerson's going to be a bad corner in the NFL. I just felt like I would have liked to have seen the Browns maybe gone, I don't know, a pick where they can get some immediate impact on their roster. You know what I'm saying? A guy who's not going to step in and be CB4. Because let's count him out. He's behind Denzel Ward. He is behind Greg Newsome. He's behind Greedy Williams. He's behind Troy Hill. He's CB4, maybe CB5. Now Williams and Williams and Troy Hill are entering the last year of their contracts. So this is a play for the future. Andrew Berry likes corners. His thought is you can never have enough of corners, but I give it a C-. Again, this isn't like I think Martin Emerson's going to be a bad corner. He may be a very good corner, but his ceiling is CB3. I don't see them picking him because they think he's going to be better than Denzel Ward or Greg Newsome. Now, I'm all for picking best player available, but if the best player available was a quarterback, you wouldn't pick a quarterback, right? Because you got one in Deshaun Watson. You're pretty stacked at corner. Maybe wide receiver would have been a more appealing pick. We'll get to the rest of my grades in just a second, but get the best NFL draft coverage right here at the Cleveland Browns Report. Subscribe on YouTube. We're not only on YouTube, by the way, we are also on Rumble. If you want to, that's your fancy. If you want to go on over there, make sure you check us out at rumble.com/Browns Report. If you're looking for free Browns draft coverage, don't look any further. This is the spot for you. Hit that big red button and subscribe. Let's get on to the next pick the Browns made. That was Alex Wright. Just 10 picks later, if memory serves me correct. Yep, 68 on to 78. Here's the scouting report on Wright. It's a physical guy, awesome size. 6'7". I like the pick. 6'7", like I was saying. Last season for UAB, did a lot of great things for the Dragons. 6 sacks, a forced fumble, 45 tackles. It says 6'5". No, I think it's closer to 6'6", 6'7". He's got ridiculous size. He's a little younger, right, 22. But we've also seen Barry likes to draft young. I know we've got a very small sample size on his draft class, but still, I think it's worth noting he likes to go with the younger audience when he's entertaining the future of his personnel. So Alex Wright was the next pick for Cleveland. I like the idea of going out and getting an edge rusher in day 2. Especially when you don't quite know what the situation is with Clowney. So I'll give it a B-. The reason why I'm not giving it much higher is, let's not forget, C is average. So you're above average with Alex Wright. Could you have gotten a better edge rusher? Yeah, you could have if you stayed put at 44. Drake Jackson probably would have been a little more exciting. Ultimately, I do have faith in Andrew Berry. The guy knows more about football than I do. I will happily admit that. He's an NFL GM for a reason. We also know GMs get stuff wrong. GMs are bombing drafts left and right every single year. So we can't, it's unfair to not criticize them, but I think B- fits Alex Wright pretty well. Who do you want to draft next? As we move into the final day of the 2022 NFL Draft, who is out there that you're like, I want this guy on Cleveland? For me, I'll go with Romeo Doubs, the wide receiver out of Nevada, especially after waiting to, and we'll show you the final pick here the Cleveland Browns had in round 3, waiting that long to make a wide receiver selection, which they did with David Bell at 99. Out of Purdue, 93 receptions, 1,200 yards, and 6 touchdowns. The guy quietly has been a stat monster. So David Bell at one point was fringe, late first, early second round. And then came the combine. And we're going to get the measurements up for you guys so you can see why he fell, because that's been the big story behind David Bell. How does someone go from early second to the end of round 3? Well, when you run a 4.6 40, you're not making a lot of GMs flip the table over. So there is some knocks right there at David Bell, but ultimately, I like the pick a lot. We watched him play at Purdue. I watched him play, and I thought, wow, he's a really good football player. He's very good at catching footballs and running far with it and getting into the end zone. Like, getting down to the bare bones of a wide receiver. I liked what I saw out of him. Did he test well in the combine? No, he did not. You know what? There's a lot of guys that test super well in the combine and don't have great NFL careers. Hello, John Ross, the super fast dude who's now the 5th-string receiver on the New York Giants after a first-round pick from Cincinnati. Great job, Bengals. You look at his stats one more time, what he did in West Lafayette, 1,200 yards. But what I liked a lot about him is it wasn't just like a one-season jump off the page. He had been accumulating great stats for 2-3 seasons for the Boilermakers. I like the pick a lot. I'll give you my grade on him in just a second, but let's quickly revisit the 3 picks that Andrew Berry made in this NFL draft class, in this day 2 of the NFL draft. Martin Emerson, the corner out of Mississippi State, Alex Wright, the edge rusher out of UAB, and David Bell out of Purdue, which I give a B grade. I think where you got Bell at, late 3rd round, that's pretty good value. Like, I know everyone was ragging on the guy because he had a bad 40. All right, so what? Not all the best wide receivers are the fastest guys out there. In fact, I bet if you went and looked at the top 40-yard dash runners from the 2018 wide receiver draft class, or pick any year you want, you wouldn't recognize most of the names. So ultimately, though, after 2 days of the NFL draft, I give the Browns a C. Average. You know, you didn't make a big splash sexy trade, and that's okay. You had your fun before the draft started. Let's not forget. You had fun when you traded for Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper. Okay? You moved back from 44 to stockpile more picks. That's fine. I've got no issue. In fact, I like trading back more than up 90% of the time. So you get an average grade from me. I bet you'll see some more Fs, which, by the way, I invite you to go into the comment section and grade day 2 picks for the Cleveland Browns. I give it a C. I like David Bell. I like Alex Wright. I don't think you needed a corner with your first pick in the draft. You could have had George Pickens if you stayed put, or Nick Bonito if you stayed put, or Drake Jackson, some of these bigger name edge rushers. But hey, Andrew Berry has done a lot of great things for the Browns. I'm not going to start doubting him after his first couple draft selections in this year's class. Not saying he's perfect. Not saying he doesn't miss on draft picks. He's untouchable. But yeah, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and wait to see how these picks work out. But ultimately, I'll end with a C for the draft class. Guys, don't go anywhere. We're going to be a lot more Browns draft coverage coming your way here on the channel. Follow me on Twitter. Hit that big red button. Subscribe. I'll see you guys tomorrow for day 3 of the NFL Draft.